Here's Fontaines DC.
Since emerging onto the scene in 2017, Fontaines have been flying the flag for a new era of Irish post-punk. With a Mercury nomination under their belt and 3 critically acclaimed albums, they're set to make a much-anticipated return to the festival circuit this summer, and will finally get to answer the question,
What's really going on?
Well, welcome back to another episode of Who the F***, the show that aims to take a deep dive in some of the acts performing across festival season in 2022. In today's episode, we're revisiting, this is the second part 2 that we've ever done. We're revisiting the incredible Fontaines DC from Dublin, Ireland. If you've never heard of them before, they're just the coolest post-punk band. They've just released their 3rd album, and if I'm honest with you, I couldn't be more excited to talk about them. So without further ado, if you've never heard of them before, hopefully this video will help answer the question, who the f*** are Fontaines DC?
Think we rhyme. I will take over your sign.
Carlos, Connor, Grian and Tom are the 5 members that make up Fontaines DC. They're from Dublin, Ireland. Genre-wise, they're described as post-punk. I think this works really well. They draw influences from a range of different people. Tracks like Hurricane Laughter really remind me of bands like the Stone Roses. They also have a kind of Iggy and the Stooges feel to them, and there's definitely a Joy Division input for sure.
Dance to the radio.
I think it's also easy to draw comparisons to people like the Pogues and other amazing kind of punk indie bands like the Murder Capital, Shame, Idols. Hey, even things like Sports Team and Wet Leg, they fit into that category for me too. We're going to reel through their story. A little recap here from part 1. The band got their name from the character in the movie The Godfather called Johnny Fontaine. They released their first single, Liberty Bell, in 2017.
You know I love that violence that you get around here, that kind of ready, steady violence.
This was then followed up with the single Hurricane Laughter.
Hurricane Laughter.
And in 2018, they released the AA single Checkless Reckless and Boys in the Better Land.
What's really going on? What's really going on? But the boys in the better land. You're always talking about the boys in the better land.
It was at this point that they really started to gain traction. In April, they released their debut album Dogrel, the record including newest records Big,
Dublin in the rain is mine, a pregnant city with a Catholic mind. Starts those sheets for the birdhouse jail.
Roy's Tune,
Never really read or spent the day in bed, and my hair was red and my eyes went dead.
Sha Sha Sha,
And that's another one. Sha sha sha. Sha sha sha.
and the immaculate Too Real.
As it stands, I'm about to make a lot of money. Gold caps in the pan.
For more info on that album and its artwork, I highly recommend going back and listening to part 1 of this. Great fun. Dogrel was nominated for the Mercury Music Prize in 2019 alongside Foals, Slow Tie and Idols, all losing out to Psychodrama by Dave. However, Dogrel did win Album of the Year for both Rough Trade and Six Music. In late 2019, they were announced to play the 50th celebration of Glastonbury before it was unfortunately cancelled due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The band would then go on to release their newest single, A Hero's Death, in May 2020.
Ain't always empty. Life ain't always empty. Life ain't always empty.
First single taken from their upcoming sophomore album with the same name. At the time, a song with the repetitive lyric of "Life ain't always empty" felt very poignant, especially given the lockdown restrictions put in place across the world. Although Green is quoted, while writing the record, the line was meant to be balancing on a tightrope of sincerity and cynicism, to which he now feels kind of guilty for. The band would go on to perform the record on Later with Jules Holland from multiple locations during the pandemic in June 2020. In June 2020, they would release the second single from that album, I Don't Belong.
I don't belong to anyone. I don't belong to anyone.
Before releasing their third single, Televised Mind, at the end of June.
Televised Mind.
At the end of July, they released their second album, A Hero's Death, to critical acclaim with a Metacritic score of 84. Reviews came in saying, rather than succumb to difficult second album syndrome, Fontaines DC have emerged frontrunners in an already crowded field of vital, important young bands. A Hero's Death is a resounding victory. Shunning a tried and tested formula to focus on evolution and experimentation is always a massive risk, but by choosing to embrace the calmer and often much darker side, the Dubliners could well have given us their masterpiece. The record featured the previous 3 singles as well as album standouts, A Lucid Dream, and You Say.
Have a lot of things to say.
Later on in January 21, Soulwax would give A Hero's Death the remix treatment, achieving what I had considered to be the impossible, turning Fontaines' record into a bop.
Life ain't always empty. Life ain't always empty. Life ain't always empty.
A Hero's Death was nominated at the 2021 Grammys Award for the Best Rock Album alongside Michael Kiwanuka, Grace Potter and Sturgill Simpson, losing out to The Strokes' New Abnormal. I mean, really? What the f***ing hell is even the Grammys anymore? Like, what's the point in it? Who picks it? Like, it has no meaning. What's the point in having an award show if it has no meaning? In January 2022, they released their first single taken from their upcoming 3rd album, Jackie Down the Line.
I will hurt you, I'll desert you. I am Jackie Down the Line.
Which could be their most Stone Roses meets Joy Division record yet. They would go on to perform this record on Jimmy Fallon in perhaps one of the most creative live performance videos I think I've ever seen. It feels like a really vivid, fully produced music video with men dressed as gnomes. And on a geeky level, the video looks like it's a one-shot 4x5 drone shot, like first-person drone, which is an amazing, I'm not sure, but it's an amazing feat of filmmaking.
I am Jackie Down the Line, I don't think we run.
This was then followed up with the sensational I Love You.
I love you, I love you, I told you I do.
The 3rd album, Skinty Fia, was released on April the 22nd to even more critical acclaim with a Metacritic score of 85. NME scored it 100, saying that the fight for a better island deserves songs that mirror the depth of the crisis, and in its endlessly captivating story, Skinty Fia rises triumphantly to the task. The youthful buoyancy of Dogrel has ebbed away. There's a chill deep in the bones of these big, bold songs. Fontaines DC sound full of new life. The real triumph of Skinty Fia is that Fontaines DC's most musically adventurous and demanding album to date is also their most open-hearted. But my fave has to be the summary on the Metacritic webpage, where it says, the 3rd full-length studio album from Irish post-punk band Fontaines DC was produced by Dan Carey and features an accordion on one track. The term Skinty Fia is a phrase that Tom's great aunt used to say that translates to the damnation of the deer in Gaelic. I guess this is why the album has to feature like this giant elk-sized deer and is drenched in red light with gothic text for the title. The album also features subsequent singles Skinty Fia and Roman Holiday.
I'm on inside of you and I don't wanna see the Queen, I already sing the song.
As well as the live staple Nabokov.
Baby, I've let myself drown.
This is their 2nd time playing Glastonbury. The first was in 2019. They were due to play both Glastonbury, Reading and Leeds in 2020, but were both cancelled due to the pandemic. And this is their first time playing Reading and Leeds, sharing the lineup with Jack Harlow, the Lathams, the Sherlocks, Wolf Alice, and of course, Arctic Monkeys. We're not quite sure which stage they're on at Glastonbury yet, but check back next week or later this week once we have the stage splits in. If you've made it this far, I really appreciate you. This is the 2nd version of this video that I've done. I was just listening to this before. It's amazing to see how far the filmmaking's come. If you don't subscribe, then please do, because, you know, this is the hype train for festival season. We're 50 days from Glastonbury now, and there is nothing but content coming out. I'm so excited. Lining up some really cool conversations with people. There's some great WTF episodes to come. I was saying there's a big Kendrick Lamar-shaped hole in my release schedule. And I'm really excited. So if you are enjoying this series so far, please, a little like, comment, subscribe. It makes all the difference and I really appreciate it. You know, when it comes to Fontaines DC, I said it when I was re-recording the podcast, I don't think I've ever been so changed by making an episode of something. I started writing the Fontaines WTF episode in 2020 thinking like, oh, they're okay, they're a one-hit wonder. And I was so wrong. They're so good. And this third album, they've really grown up, and they're really not just another indie band. They are Fontaines DC with an amazing following, and I'm just so excited to see where that takes them. 3 albums deep, and they're just smashing it. I can't wait to see them. I've got tickets to see them in March down the road, seeing them at Reading and seeing them at Glastonbury. What a lucky boy I am. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers. Bye.